Today we're going to look at phase 2 of solving quadratic equations by completing the square. The thing that's different about phase 2 is we're going to have a coefficient in front of the variable squared. This could make it a little bit more difficult, but we'll get through it. But first, let's go ahead and look at one example from phase 1 where there is no coefficient, just as a reminder. So first thing I want to do is to write this equation like this, where I get this 3 on the other side by subtracting 3, and I want to complete the square. If you remember, we'll take half of 10 and get 5. 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to put a 25 right here, or add a 25. So I have to add 25 to the other side of the equation to balance it out. So now my left side is a perfect square trinomial, and when I factor it, I get x plus 5 squared. And then over here, negative 3 plus 25 equals a positive 22. When I take the square root of both sides, I get x plus 5 is equal to positive and negative 4.69. I use my calculator and I just round it off to the nearest hundredth. Now to get rid of plus 5, I will subtract 5 or add negative 5 to both sides. Okay, so when I add a positive 4.69 and subtract 5, I'm going to get a negative 0.31. And when I do negative 4.69 minus 5, I will get a negative 9.69. So these would be my two solutions, which I could write as a solution set. And so that's one simple example. So for this example, you will notice that we do have a coefficient right here in front of the variable squared. We need to take care of that by dividing both sides of the equation by that number. So we can divide both sides of the equation by 2, and that will give me my new equation of x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Now I can solve this the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to write x squared plus 4x equals, add 5 to both sides, we get 5. Now I will complete the square. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4, so I'm going to add 4 here to complete the square, add 4 here to balance out my equation. So now, when I factor this perfect square trinomial, I get x plus 2 squared equals 9. Take the square root of both sides, I get x plus 2 equals positive and negative 3. Always remember to put that there right now. Now I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides and get x equals, well, 3 minus 2 equals 1, or negative 3 minus 2 equals negative 5. So I'm going to write my solution like this time, x equals 1 or negative 5. For our next example, again, I see the 4 in front of the d squared, so I have to get rid of that. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 4. And I'll get d squared plus 2d plus 5 equals 0. 0 divided by 4 is still 0. So I'm going to prepare to complete the square by subtracting 5 from both sides. Now I'm going to complete the square. Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I have a perfect square trinomial. Factor it. I'm going to get d plus 1 squared equals negative 4. When I go to take the square root of both sides, I will get d plus 1 equals the square root of negative 4, which does not exist. Remember, you cannot take the square root of a negative number. So the solution to this quadratic equation is no solution. And that's what I would write, but neither. Okay, next example. I need to get rid of this 9, so I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 9. And to avoid messy decimals, I'm going to keep things as fractions. So 9b squared divided by 9 is simply b squared, plus 6 divided by 9 is 2/3, and 3 divided by 9 is 1/3. Now I'm going to prepare to complete the square. Half of 2/3 is 1/3. And when I square the 1/3, I get 1/9. So I'm going to add 1/9 here to complete the square. There goes the bell. Add 1/9 here to balance out the equation. So my left side will be b plus 1/3 squared equals, well, 1/3 plus 1/9 equals 4/9 once you find the common denominator. Take the square root of both sides, I get b plus 1/3 equals positive and negative 2/3. The square root of 4/9 is 2/3. Now I'm going to move up to the top. So we have a positive 2/3 minus 1/3 equals 1/3. That's one of my solutions. But then we also have a negative 2/3. Negative 2/3 minus 1/3 equals negative 3/3, also known as negative 1. So my two solutions are negative 1 and positive 1/3. Our final example. This will get a little bit messy, but we'll be okay. So the first thing I need to do is divide both sides by 10. And I'm going to go ahead and leave things as fractions. I could do this with decimals, but I'm going to do fractions this time. Divide both sides of the equation by 10. I'm going to get x squared plus 3/10 x equals 4/10, which equals 2/5. So now let's work on completing the square. Half of 3/10 is 3/20. And then when I square 3/20, I get 9 over 400. So that's what I'm going to use to complete the square. So my new equation is x squared plus 3/10 x plus 9 over 400 equals 2/5 plus 9 over 400. So I already completed the square, so let's go ahead and factor the right side. So this is going to be x plus, remember our 3/20, 3/20 squared equals, well, once I find my common denominator and work everything out, I'm going to get 169 over 400. Next, I simply take the square root of both sides. I get x plus 3 over 20 equals 13 over 20. Pardon me, positive and negative 13 over 20. Now we'll just subtract 3/20 from both sides. So first off, 13/20 positive minus 3/20 would be 10/20, also known as 1/2. And then negative 13/20 minus 3/20 equals negative 16/20, also known as negative 4/5. Therefore, my two solutions are negative 4/5 and 1/2. And that will be the end of this lesson. I hope you found it helpful. Goodbye.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.